I'm Rachel Bailey, specialist in positive parenting and perfection-free parenting at rachel-bailey.com. And I teach parents how to redefine perfect parenting so that you can get from, I'm not sure if I'm doing this parenting thing the right way, to, I've got this. I'm going to talk to you about what we do when we want our kids to listen to us and they just don't. Of course, in those moments, our instinct is to make them listen to us, to use whatever tools we have as the person in power, tools like punishment, yelling, and bribing. But for a lot of us, those strategies don't feel good. And the truth is, those are actually external motivators. So when we are not around to punish or bribe or yell, our children might not be internally motivated to make good choices. And I don't know about you, but I want my kids to do the right thing even when I'm not looking, because I'm not going to be at a party when their friends are offering them alcohol or drugs, and I'm not always going to be able to look over their shoulder when they're on social media. So fortunately, there are things you can do to influence your child's behavior, even though ultimately you can't really control it. So first, it's important to understand why children might not listen when you ask them to do something in the first place. So I'm going to tell you a few reasons, and then I'm going to tell you the 3 steps to influencing behavior. So first, it's important to understand the brains of children and adolescents. Do they seem like all they do is what they feel like doing? Well, they're sort of wired that way. As humans, we seek pleasure and we avoid pain. Sure, adults don't always do the thing they want to do, first, because they have enough life experience to know that you can't always do or get what you want. But more importantly, the adult brain allows us to delay gratification, to control our impulses, and to handle frustration. But the part of the brain that controls all this doesn't actually develop until we're in our mid-20s. So kids have a really rough time when we ask them to stop doing the thing that feels good to go do something that they just don't care about or don't want to do. Their brain literally isn't developed enough. So does that mean we don't expect our kids to do anything until they're in their mid-20s? No, absolutely not. It's actually the opposite. We have to teach them how to be responsible and know that teaching them will take lots of consistency and repetition before they understand. I mean, imagine you're learning something new, like a new language or a new musical instrument. If the person who's teaching you doesn't repeat new information and expects you to get it right on the first or even the 5th or 10th time you try, or if that teacher weren't consistent and changed the rules on you all the time, how do you think you would learn? But when you as the teacher are patient and consistent, your child will start to learn, and that is when you influence behavior. Now I have a video on suggestions about how to maintain consistency in parenting. So if you need to see that, either check out my YouTube channel at Rachel Bailey or my website at rachel-bailey.com, or you can contact me and I'll send you that video. But let's say you're teaching your child and asking them to do something, but they still don't listen. That may be because all human beings have a need for control. So if you had a friend or a spouse or a boss who were trying to tell you what to do all the time and micromanaging you, you'd probably get very angry and might even leave that relationship. But kids can't leave their relationship with us, yet they have very little control. We're telling them where to be, when to be there, how to act when they're there. So if we want our children to feel a sense of control, we need them to be able to find solutions to problems and have a say in the consequences that they face. So for example, you might say to your child, at dinner time, it's time to come to the table. And sometimes you don't come to the table when I ask. How can we solve that problem? What do you need in order to be successful? And then you could talk about the consequences and ask, and what should happen if I ask you and you still don't come? Giving your children a sense of control makes them much more likely to be influenced by you. Now, one more reason that kids are not influenced by their parent is something that I learned when I was a therapist for adolescents, and it's what I call the screw you principle. And teenagers would tell me time and time again, they would say, oh, I knew what the consequences of what my behavior would be, but I was so angry at either their teacher or their friend that I just wanted to say screw you, so I made the bad choice anyway. So to avoid that screw you principle, it's important that as much as you're focusing on teaching your child how to be responsible, you also focus on your overall relationship. That means you respect their perspective and treat them with respect. Many of us treat our kids as if our perspective matters so much more than theirs, or we don't see our children for who they really are. And what do you think they want to say to us when they feel that way? They want to say, screw you. And often they act out that feeling through disrespectful or defiant behavior. So with all of that in mind, here are the 3 steps for influencing behavior. First, understand how that children are wired to feel good and that they struggle to control impulses and transition from the thing that feels good to the thing that doesn't. You'll have to teach your child how to be more responsible by being both repetitive and consistent. Number 2, remember that your children need a sense of control. Allow them to be involved in the situation and potential consequences that are going to affect them. And lastly, make sure your relationship overall is respectful. Take the time to listen to your children and show them that you care about them as much as their behavior. If your relationship is based on you wanting them to listen to you all the time, especially if you're not considering their perspective, the screw you principle is likely to take effect. And at that point, you've lost all of your influence. So if you have any questions about influencing your child's behavior or anything else that will allow you to feel more confident in your ability to raise great kids, feel free to email me at rachel@bailey.com. And if you're not part of it already, feel free to join our free Facebook community at Redefining Perfect Parenting. You can just type that in Facebook, Redefining Perfect Parenting. And that's where real, imperfect parents support each other on their journey to raise great kids without expecting perfection from themselves or their children. And until then, I'll see you next time.